This is your Lowry story, the story of Lowry Air Force Base located in the mile-high city of Denver. Its mission, training. Training of technicians for the United States Air Force, based throughout the world, from the Air Defense Command for Defense at Home to overseas bases in support of our allies in the United Nations. Here is a normal scene for your introduction to the base. Aircraft like this large transport, or this sleek bomber taking off, or troops marching to and from training areas, marching to study halls, marching to classrooms, marching to dining halls, and even a little of the old days, just plain marching. Not in the sense of the old Army, close order drill, but in preparation for becoming an essential part of the constantly changing Air Force required for the wide protection that we are expected to furnish the free nations of the world. An Air Force continually in the process of technological expansion and advancing in the skills and knowledges essential to your round-the-clock protection. Troops marching with a purpose in mind, in pursuit of the knowledge to be gained in the more than 100 courses established at Lowry Air Force Base. Let's follow these men into one of their school areas, the Department of Pilotless Aircraft Training. Here students are being taught how to maintain the inner workings of these missiles, the motor and structural design which enables them to be controlled and kept on their selected targets. Pilotless aircraft, not new, but certainly far advanced from the World War II vintage, and each new advancement establishing the need for more and more training. Electronics fundamentals training is another of the most important skills necessary to maintain an up-to-date global Air Force. The electrical and electronic workings of the intricate systems with which our aircraft are equipped, radio, radar, remote control armament equipment, all of which require a good fundamental background of electronics and its maintenance. Speaking of fundamentals, this security guard is a basic requirement at Lowry, and especially at this location. Here, airmen learn to apply their training in electronics. You see training being conducted on the involved and highly complicated armament systems for our aircraft. You also see airmen of our allies in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization who share in our training here and who would share in your protection in the event of global conflict. Maintenance, highly technical maintenance to keep these complex devices functioning. Radar controls, gyros, electronic devices kept in good operating condition for training more and more technicians. Nothing is so important to these highly trained technicians as the experience gained from working with the actual equipment which they will encounter throughout the Air Force. Sleek, lethal weapons of destruction, complicated mechanisms, all must be a part of the training of these men. Aircraft are readied for a mission, and these armament trainees are servicing the guns on the fighter aircraft which are used for training at Lowry. Here they are taught to disassemble, repair, and service the guns, just as they would do under actual field conditions. Practice to develop the proficiency necessary to keep these aircraft and guns at peak performance continually. Arming the plane with rockets to be used for close support of our ground forces. The practice of loading bombs on the underside of the F-86 Sabrejet, the MiG killer, and one of our workhorses of the Air Force. Here at Lowry, airmen are trained with the best and latest equipment available to our forces anywhere. A heavy bomb being gently handled with all due respect shown for its death-dealing properties. Students acquire knowledge of all types of bombs to meet the requirements for weapons in this day of advanced warfare, to be considered in the striking power of the Air Force. The rockets and bombs which can blast the enemy from his hiding place and level his defenses. Lethal armor-piercing rockets go into the nose of this fighter as though they were part of the aircraft itself. Here's another of the old workhorses of the Air Force, the B-29, being used to train our armament technicians in remote control turrets. The powerful 50 caliber machine guns with their hungry capacity for throwing lead and throwing it accurately due to the extensive training these airmen receive in the maintenance of their weapons. This and more advanced developments in aircraft weapons taught in Lowry armament courses prepare students for assignment in the field where, with on-the-job training, they gain full proficiency in handling these specialized firing devices. The demolition range, where bombs and other high explosives such as this one are armed and tested, from high explosives to napalm, searing jellied gasoline. The Department of Intelligence Training, where our officers and airmen are taught to apply and assemble intelligence material for such things as this mission being plotted, using all the modern methods of tactical and strategic intelligence to put our Air Force to most effective use. These men are studying structural designs, not for architectural purposes, but to obtain intelligence information about the type of enemy structures which, once analyzed, will be bombed and then, after reconnaissance, assessed for damage. Photo interpretation, where from painstaking effort much is gleaned from aerial photographs of enemy defenses, his past and future intentions, how to put our aircraft and ground forces in the best position to combat his future planning and thus enable us to mount our own offensives when and where we see fit. One of our best defensive and offensive weapons, radar. These officers are being trained in the operation of radar equipment vital to searching out our oft-times unseen enemy, practicing the art of detecting the target and keeping it within the eye of the radar scope. All these are part of the highly complex instruction given to officers and airmen students in the Department of Intelligence Training. Training films made by the Air Force play a vital role in turning men and women into trained technicians. Here in the Department of Photography Training at Lowry, there is a school for training our own motion picture photographers. Today, these students are covering the revival of some VIPs at Lowry. But tomorrow it may be motion pictures and still photos of a bomb blast for scientific evaluation. Before these students graduate to a press camera or motion picture camera, they learn the fundamentals of photography on a view camera. After they have finished taking the pictures, they will go to a dark room where they learn to develop, print, and make enlargements of the pictures they have taken. These students are being trained to take the aerial photographs which make it so difficult for the enemy to keep secrets continually sought by Air Force intelligence. This shutter mock-up makes it easy for the students to understand the complex operation of a camera shutter. Airmen, men and women, are trained to disassemble and repair the intricate mechanism of all types of camera equipment used by the Air Force. They learn, too, how to adjust the aerial cameras and install them in the airplanes, so that all the pilot need do is push the button to get the pictures which are so vital in revealing activity behind the enemy lines. Flexible gunnery is also part of the training picture at Lowry. 4-engine B-29 Superforts such as this take student gunners high in the skies over Colorado. Waiting for them is a jet which will make fighter attacks on the bomber, similar to those which might be encountered from an enemy fighter. The student gunners train their remotely controlled guns on the jet, but the guns remain silent. A motion picture camera coupled to the gun sight records the accuracy of the gunner's aim. After each aerial mission, the student gunners view their film. The film has been scored before the showing, and each student knows exactly how many hits he has made. The instructor, a veteran of many actual combat missions, gives each student pointers on how to improve his performance in the future. These student gunners get a chance to fire live ammunition at a radio-controlled airplane on this gunnery range located about 15 miles southeast of Lowry. The pilot of this little airplane remains on the ground and by means of radio signals makes simulated fighter attacks on the gun positions. The gunners realize that someday the ship they are firing at may also be firing at them, so there is no lack of enthusiasm of trying to knock the little ship down. When a gunner scores a hit on a radio-controlled plane, a parachute is opened and the plane is brought safely to the ground so that it may be repaired and used again. The Comptroller School trains students to operate the modern business machines that help to increase the administrative efficiency of the Air Force. This key punch machine perforates cards which are automatically grouped by this sorting machine. Students must learn to wire the complex business machines in order to obtain the desired results. Even though comptroller training may not seem as glamorous as other fields, the skill of the men and women who operate these machines has saved the taxpayer many a dollar. Students in the Department of Transportation Training learn that it takes more than airplanes to transport material and supplies for a modern Air Force. It also takes trucks, which must be properly maintained and properly loaded. It takes railroad cars, and these men are learning how to load a model railroad car so that the goods will get to their destination in serviceable condition. One of the most spectacular aspects of Lowry is the Department of Firefighting and Crash Rescue Training. Safety of airmen is a primary factor in Air Force operations, and nothing is spared in efforts of research and development toward improving fire rescue technique. In addition to learning how to put out the more conventional types of fire, students acquire procedures for combating aircraft fires made hazardous by virtue of special factors. One of these is gasoline. Huge tanks for gas are carried in every aircraft, and the high-octane gas in even the smallest craft represents extreme danger. The weapons aboard an aircraft require great amounts of ammunition. Nothing is more perilous than fire around loaded shells and bombs. Huge firefighting trucks, some weighing 20 tons and especially designed to combat aircraft fires, are stationed on Air Force bases throughout the world. Student graduates of the Firefighting and Crash Rescue course man these fire stations and make flying safer. The intense heat of gasoline fires would all but seem unsurmountable. Yet these firefighters, spraying foam and carbon dioxide, effectively fight fire by suffocation. Firemen clothed in asbestos suits are screened within a hollow barrel of foam, walk directly into the fire without danger of being burned. These men are trained to rescue crash victims from a burning plane and administer emergency first aid if necessary. This is the Department of Training Aids at Lowry. They make that large model of a small shutter that you saw a while ago, also the model of a railroad car. Training aids makes the job of training easier for the instructor and the students. Lowry also trains its own instructors who get a good deal of practice here at the instructor training school before they are sent to the various training departments on the base. You've seen some of the activities of our primary mission, training. But now let's look into the hangars and shops which are manned by skilled technicians and craftsmen who keep our training machine rolling. The control tower operators who safely direct the arrival and departure of all aircraft using Lowry's busy runways. The weather personnel who compile data from a 9-state area for use by pilots and navigators in planning flights. The maintenance group embraces all manner of mechanics who keep our aircraft flying. Hangar crews check over the engines and accessory equipment of a giant B-29 bomber, the radio equipment of fast jet fighters, the fuselages of cargo planes, and install whole new engines where necessary. Shops in the hangars employ propeller specialists, sheet metal men who repair engine nacelles, welders to fix framework, and skilled instrument mechanics who calibrate and check everything from clocks to altimeters. Flight line service refuels the planes and tows them from the hangars to be given a final check before return to service. All of these functions are dependent on supply. Clerks keep a record of everything from pencils to engines, and warehouse personnel receive and issue the equipment. Our railroad is one of the longest military roads in the United States and the only one which crosses live runways. Well-trained cooks using the most modern equipment prepare delicious meals to satisfy the demanding appetites of Lowry's busy men and women. 16,000 eggs, 2 tons of beef, 2,200 chickens, 5 tons of potatoes, 325 gallons of ice cream is a part of a daily ration to Lowry's dining halls. Well, you've seen the Lowry story. It's a story of training and progress, a story that lends emphasis to the statement that the United States Air Force is the strong, ready right arm of national defense. For the past 16 years, we have become a part of the life of Denver. Lowry boomed during the days of World War II, then operations lessened. With the rise of another threat, the base gained new life and today is a flourishing center of Air Force activity. Yet training continues with us at Lowry. Training, always training, night and day, to assure your maximum return on your tax dollar, maximum air protection, and maximum return on the faith you have placed in the United States Air Force.